okay if you don't trip on the camera.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. I'm the store Instagrammer, in case you're wondering. I'm trying to keep them all together here.
I'm over here.
You
Okay.
are.
All right.
Is her microphone on?
Yep.
Great. Right. So thank you for all the lovely treats that you and your colleague in crime, Lois, have brought.
Well, you are entirely welcome, and I brought 2 little things for raffle or something like that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
well,
why I'm loaded down here. I'm sorry. 50-pound purse.
Okay. So, Joanne, since this is your book launch party,
Hey.
a little toast to you.
Well, thank you very much.
Applause, everybody. So, we're drinking to Hannah too, right? As well. Is Hannah's judgment somewhat in question at the moment in this book?
Oh, well, things have not turned out exactly as Hannah hoped they would. And
got
I've
them up?
been waiting.
Try this one.
Okay.
Hold it up.
All right, is that better?
Can you hear her now?
Yes. No, she's got to tip it towards you like this.
Like this?
Yeah. Pretend it's an ice cream cone. That's the more polite.
I am not gonna let the top off, no. Okay?
Right.
Now, I was really excited about writing this book. I have been waiting for 3 years to finally write this book. And I'm not gonna tell you how it turns out. Well, I don't want to, because then why read it?
Right.
No.
Well, people could read it for the fabulous recipes in the back, but
Oh, we've got some good ones in here. Oh my gosh, the chocolate cream pie is wonderful. And there's a white chocolate brownie that is fantastic. Oh yeah. And let's see, what else is really good? Ooh, an interesting one is you take tortillas and like flour tortillas, spray the inside of a cupcake pan.
Oh.
Yeah, and then you dip the tortillas in Italian dressing or any dressing that you really like that has oil in it, and then you put it in the pan and kind of make it, so it sticks to the side, and bake them. And when they come out and they cool slightly, you can take them out, and they're these little cups, and you can use them for anything. I mean, you could use them if you want to put beans in them, you put beans in them. You want to put a salad in them, you put a salad in them. It's just so much fun. And they're so easy to make, and everybody's, oh, how did you do that? And that's when you say, oh, it took me all day.
so this is for people who are pastry challenged. This is for people who are pastry challenged.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, there's another one for people that are, well, it's not really pastry, but that are definitely challenged in the kitchen. Frozen grapes. Sounds weird.
No,
Okay,
it is.
green grapes, seedless of course. And you can also use the reddish grapes that are seedless. And you cannot make these for children, okay? Because you need alcohol. They're really good for a New Year's Eve party, but you have to limit how many people eat. Either that or have them walk a line before they drive home. But you marinate them in alcohol, the grapes. Just, you don't do anything to them, just put them in there. And then you roll them in granulated sugar, white sugar, and then you put them in the freezer. And they are wonderful because they don't freeze all the way. They're not hard. You can't drop them on the floor like a marble and hear them hit. But they do hit. But anyway, those are some of the recipes. There's so many others I can't even think.
Well, they sound delicious. That's a Spanish tradition to eat 12 grapes between 11:59 and midnight. You get a little bunch at a Spanish New Year's Eve party, and you have to eat your 12 grapes in that minute. So how much better if they're full of alcohol and sugar? Wow.
I would put them on the bed table.
Well, some people have a higher tolerance for alcohol than others. So there we are. Well, it's Lake Eden, Minnesota. This has been a really rough winter in Minnesota. Really, really cold.
Yes, definitely really cold. Blizzard conditions. You know, in the beginning part of the book, it's blizzard conditions. And of course, everybody snowed in. And you don't drive during a blizzard. You don't dare because you can't see anything. It's just like a solid sheet of white, except it swirls. It will make you very, very dizzy. And there's no way to see past it. There's no way to see the side of the road. I can remember one time I had to drive. It was only a couple blocks in. It wasn't even a blizzard. It was just a really heavy snowfall with a wind. And I remember sticking my head out the window and, of the car and driving with my other hand so I could see the edge of the road. It's that bad. It really is. So poor Hannah, she was stuck in a blizzard. Although she did have people with her in the blizzard. And so it wasn't quite as bad as it could be.
How's business at the bakery during a blizzard?
How's business?
How's business at the bakery?
Not.
Can people actually stagger down to the bakery?
No. No, they had to close. They had something like, I think Lisa said 4 or 5 customers, and that was it. And it was ridiculous to stay open. So they closed, but then they worked on the recipes for Valentine's Day. Because they, of course, do Valentine's Day catering, and they make special things for Valentine's Day. And Hannah, stuck at home in the condo, also worked on some recipes for Valentine's Day. So you're going to see recipes for Valentine's Day in this book also. Valentine whippersnappers. I mean, there's quite a few things. And they're very good, by the way. And there's a marvelous strawberry cake. A bun cake. Oh my goodness, it's so good.
Well, chocolate certainly ought to be key for Valentine's Day, right? So the chocolate cream pie. I'm always interested to see what Joanne picks, for the, partly because we always get one when she comes here. So, right. It wasn't you, it was Diane Mott Davidson who brought brownies back in the old store when we had a carpet. It was years before we got the brownie out of the carpet, people were going, whatever. So one of the reasons we have this tasty concrete floor here is so that we can all grind stuff into it and sweep it up. But you've had such a colorful array. It makes it fun because then your book covers get to be colorful and
That's
fun.
right. That's right. That's wonderful. My artist is so good, my cover artist, and also the guy at my publisher at Kensington that arranges things on that. He does the design. And Hiro Kimura does the thing on the cover, like he did the chocolate cream pie on the cover. And I was really worried. Just a couple weeks ago, Hiro had a heart attack. And I was really afraid. I almost flew to New York. I mean, I did meet him once. He's a wonderful man. And I almost flew to New York to visit him in the hospital, but flying and me, we don't get along. But I decided I shouldn't go, that I should let him recover. And he is recovering, and he is working on the next book cover, as a matter of fact, which is Coconut Layer Cake Murder.
One of my absolute favorites. Lois, are you listening? It's really hard to go wrong with coconut. Do you remember what was that woman had a business here that made these incredible coconut cakes? Can you remember what her name is? She was really famous in the valley. Maybe, oh no, it was rum cake. It was Kathy's rum cake. But didn't she also make a coconut cake? Wow. Isn't it amazing how we measure things by food?
Yes, it is. It's perfectly natural to me. I wonder, the coconut cake, now was that real coconut? I mean, like split open the coconut or
Oh.
was it flaked? Do you know? No.
No. I
No,
think the
okay.
wrong sideline me. No, I really don't know. Although obviously yours will be a superior real coconut cut open, right, Lois? Right. Lois and I will be out in the
think
parking lot
so.
cracking coconuts and sprinkling it over the top of the cake.
My dad used to insert a nail in the coconut and then he'd pound it in with a hammer. And yeah.
Actually,
And
they have
I've
a
never did.
fabulous one at Arcadia Farms. Do any of you eat at Arcadia Farms? They have a little bitty one that you could like share because one might kill you. But it's relatively like this. So while you're warming up for Joanne, you can drop in at Arcadia Farms, which is right up the way on the other side of Goldwater here on First Avenue, in a superior place. You know what? It'd be fun. We should do an event sometime at Arcadia Farms. That would be really interesting, wouldn't it?
Ooh,
yeah.
I will
That
talk
would be
to her.
fun.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be great.
we might have to do an afternoon event. Maybe for your Christmas book, because Joanne promises that she's going to do some more Christmas books. So that might be really fun.
I love those Christmas books. They're so much fun. And the covers are so beautiful. You know, I love Christmas. I have always loved Christmas. As a small child, of course, I adored Christmas. Santa comes. But I love to bake for Christmas. So I have all these recipes. And of course, I have to do something with them. So this will be fun.
A Midwest tradition, maybe a universal tradition to bake for Christmas, right?
I think so. The only thing I was so mean. I suggested. My editor said, "Oh, please suggest some recipes," and I was so mean because I said, "How about fruitcake murder?" My grandmother had a story about fruitcakes. She said, "There's only one. Somebody gets it for Christmas. They wrap it up. They put it in the refrigerator. It stays there all year. And then they wrap it up ready and they give it to someone else. So there's only one fruitcake." She hated it too. My mother, however, learned how to make a chocolate fruitcake. My grandmother liked that because she was crazy about chocolate.
So what's up with Hannah's personal life, without giving much away here?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about that without giving a lot away, but I will just say that her marriage has not turned out the way she thought it would. As a lot of you know who have read the last two books. And she, of course, was very depressed and disappointed about that. And you're going to get a shock in this one. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I mean, it's a serious question. If you have a sleuth, whether you want to burden them with domesticity, do you really want to give them a husband and then sometimes inevitably children? That's a real problem for historical mysteries. Reese Bowen and I have talked about that. Once Molly Murphy married her police captain, and it's like 19 whatever it is, and they're strong Catholics and all, children are going to follow unless you create some artificial reason why there shouldn't be children. And then it becomes much harder to be a credible sleuth because you're worrying on babysitting and child care, and can you actually risk yourself if you have a child that you're responsible for, and it just changes the whole dynamic.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yep. Very true.
Do I dare ask Hannah's age?
Hannah, all we know about Hannah's age, a lady never tells her age, but Hannah is over 30.
So children are possible. Right.
Oh, yes, she's of childbearing age.
Although today, as far as I can tell, it's still possible when you're in your 50s, although I don't know that I actually want to try that. But anyway, so then the question arises, if you have a long courtship, at some point you either have to do something or move on, right? So it's a real problem. What book is this? This is number 20 what?
26.
26. So, that's a long time to be following Hannah through her life.
Yeah, I think the recipes help.
Well, you can have recipes, you could have sex, or you can both, but maybe recipes are really good.
I don't know about both. I'm not sure.
Do you all have questions that you would like to ask? Feel free.
How about over here?
Mine's not a question, it's sort of like an embarrassing admission, but I have to tell you, I love your books, I love your recipes, read them all. My daughter, who's sitting next to me, I have made her every year Kitty's orange cake. It's the chocolate orange cake for her birthday. This year, I was reading the Christmas book, and there was a recipe for the lemon bun cake.
Yes.
In there. So I told her, I said, I'm making this. My husband says to me, how do you know it's going to be good? This is where it gets embarrassing. I said, Andrea liked it, Lisa liked it.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I think I probably told all of you this before, but I was in the grocery store, this is a while back, and I saw some chocolate chips on the shelf, and it was a brand I had never seen before. And so I turned around to ask Hannah if she, and there was a lady, and I did, I turned around and went, and then I stopped, because I realized there's nobody there. And there was a lady pushing her cart, ready to turn down that aisle, the baking aisle. And she looked at me and she swung her cart, headed for the meat counter. Yeah.
They say that you can empty aisle 3 without any trouble.
Yeah, I mean, these people are real to me. I think they are real, somewhere. They're real. I keep hoping I'm going to come across them.
Joanne, the lemon bun cake was delicious.
Wasn't it though? I know, I love her. Wasn't it though? I mean, yes.
You're forced to maybe one for birthday, one for the holidays, you can switch back and forth. It's interesting how we can identify a holiday, isn't it, or a birthday by a particular. My husband makes me a cranberry pie every year. It's like my favorite, and I only let him make it once a year, so it stays special, and also because it's like a 20-pound, but I do think that family, either a family tradition or a personal tradition, really kicks in.
It does. A lot of the recipes in there are family recipes, definitely. I mean, I had 3 aunts who were bakers, all of them. I mean, they didn't know bakeries, but they baked. In Minnesota, a lot of people bake. It's a good way to warm up the kitchen in the winter, And when I grew up, there'd be a baking in the winter, and I would wake up and smell vanilla or, something, or chocolate or something like that in the air. And I'd think, oh, they're baking in the kitchen. They never had to call me for school twice, I tell you. I could hardly wait to get down those stairs to see what was cooking in the kitchen. Oh, gosh, it was wonderful.
So you mentioned the mother-daughter dynamic. My mom was a fairly plain, better Betty Crocker era Midwestern cook, and when I got married, when I was at Stanford as an undergraduate, she wrote down all of her recipes that she thought I really liked, and my very favorite was the Italian meatloaf. That she listed all the ingredients and whatever, and then it started out saying, mix with clean hands. Which,
very good.
Yeah, which I've always liked. And my first husband, who died very young, gave me a set of the gourmet cookbooks, and I'm like 20 years old and not terribly experienced. If you've ever looked at the gourmet cookbooks, you need to be pretty serious about the whole thing. And there was a card inside, and when I opened it, it said, to my wife, optimistically.
That's
and the only thing that I learned to make out of the gourmet cookbooks for years was a frozen, I'm trying to think what you call it. You made it in a bundt pan, and you made an outside, a bombe, B-O-M-B-E, right, where you would create, a wonderful shell outside, and then you would make this wonderful kind of almost like a cream custard.
Baked
Lois?
Alaska.
Sorry?
Was it baked?
No, it's actually a bombe, B-O-M-B-E, which is French for, and you could use one of those Teflon lined bundt pans, and you would line it with, in fact, for Christmas, you could put like peppermint ice cream, and pack it all around, and then you made, the secret was this gorgeous, creamy, custardy filling and you poured it in, and then you froze it. So when you sliced it, oh, it was really good. Lord, I must look those up. I still have those GoPros. But it's funny how those are the kind of, cooking and occasions really do stick with you.
Yeah, I always made those. Mine were not baked. Parts of it were baked, but I made them in a bowl, a large bowl, and I would make my brownie recipe, and I would cut the brownies so they curved around the bowl. So the whole thing, that was the shell, and then the inside would be this chocolate ganache. That was yummy. Okay, and then I would freeze it, just like you're talking about, and then I would ice it with the chocolate icing. So it was, bomb of three chocolates. Yeah, really.
Do you know that's the same construction as a British trifle? For those of you who are familiar with that, it's the same thing where you line it with, was it ladyfingers, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can often soak them in some sort of delicious alcohol and then fill it up with stuff.
Oh, yes.
I know. It's also a great way to use up things if you've got, fruit or other things around.
Oh, yeah, it is. And it's wonderful because the fruit in there is generally fresh fruit, and it's really good. I've made a lot of those. And you can make them from scratch, which makes it very easy for the cook.
So maybe, do any of you know that there is a serious liability attached to publishing recipes? Yep, because
Don't tell me.
you can actually hurt people, make them sick, or on rare occasions kill them if the recipe doesn't work. So if you're publishing with a good customer like Kensington, they actually test the recipes, or you do, or whatever it is.
I test them 3 times a piece.
Right.
I do it personally. It has to, 3 times, and each recipe, and it has to work all 3 times. Otherwise, I don't put it in the book, because I don't want people to have failures. And of course, I taste it. And everybody in my family, that chocolate cream pie, I tested that more than 3 times. I think, latest count, I think it was 26.
Don't I remember we're talking about the fact that you have to be really specific in your instructions?
Yes. I want to do that because there are young kids learning to bake. And sometimes they don't have a mom to bake with. I mean, mom's at work. And I want younger children to learn how to cook and bake, and to start out simply, and maybe they'll teach their mothers how to. I did. I was in Seattle, and this lady stood up and she said, "This is my daughter. I don't bake." She said, "But she read your chocolate chip crunch cookie recipe, and when I came home from work, she had baked them all by herself without any help whatsoever." I mean, she was about 10 or 11 at the time, and she said, "Now my daughter's teaching me how to bake." I thought that was charming. Yeah. But you do have to be careful with recipes.
Yeah, but I've noticed sometimes you actually put in a brand name, or
I do.
Open the can.
Oh, I do that.
Yeah.
I definitely do that. Or drain the whatever. The one thing I didn't do that I probably should have is when I say add 3 eggs, I should probably say crack the eggs. I don't think I need to do that, but one doesn't know.
If you think we're kidding, and I don't remember if it was Joanne or if it was another author, but there was a recipe made in a pressure cooker. And at
Not
some
me.
point, no, I think it was Diane, but in any case, part of the recipe was add a can of whatever peas.
Oh, no.
And so, whoever this was put the can of peas in the and it did blow up and kill her. It really did. So, it seems like, anyone would realize that you would open the can and,
Not
drain the can.
necessarily.
But you gotta, that's when I'm out, but I said there is actual liability they can attach. I'm sorry, somebody had a question right in front of me.
I did. Your character development over the 26 books has been amazing.
Michelle's grown up and gone to college, Andrea's had kids, Hannah's had her thing. But I think the person that has developed the most has been their mother.
Yes.
Especially looking back at the flashback, the last book, and how Dolores was after their father died. And just seeing how she has developed from, even her characteristics have changed. You know, Hannah talks about her, how controlling, and she's been controlling throughout the other books as well. But I think that, you know, of course, now that she's got Doc, you know, she just seems to have relaxed, and her character has just blossomed.
Doc mellowed her.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. Dolores is an interesting character. I really like Dolores now. My editor said after he read the book you're talking about, the Christmas one, he said, "This is the first time I've really liked Dolores." And I thought, I did it. Yes.
You have the Hallmark movie that comes from these books.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any control over?
No.
Because people who read the books and then watch that, you're going, that's not right. You know.
think I feel?
But I just didn't know if you had control.
No, actually, Hallmark has a very specific. We had an event with Lee Goldberg maybe a month ago, and he talked about writing for Hallmark. They have a very specific formula for how the movies go, and there's a lot of things that you can't include in them. So, you know, if they make something out of your book, they get it's their movie.
Yeah, it's their movie. I mean, they get the right to do it then. I mean, they buy the rights to do it, but they still, I had nothing to say about it.
Because I was told some people, hey, it's going to be on, you need to watch it because those are the books and they ended up going through and they go, looked at me and they started questioning and go, are you sure you're okay? Because it wasn't the same, just wasn't the same.
No, it's not. They aren't the same as the books. Of course, part of that is the difference between the movie and reading. Books, you can do things that would be almost boring in a movie. You know, you can't be that introspective. You can't get into somebody's head. It's really hard to do in a movie. You know, some people succeed in doing it, but it's very difficult. And in a movie like a Hallmark movie, they want everything just right out there in the open. And so if you have a private thought, somebody's got to say that private thought. And the pacing has to be different. Everything has to be different. Books, I wrote a couple screenplays. They didn't sell. But I did when I first started writing. I wrote a couple screenplays because I lived in Los Angeles, and that's what you do when you live in Los Angeles. You know, you write screenplays, or at least you try to. And I had no luck with it, but it was totally different. And then when I started writing books, well, that was. I mean, the two are not the same thing. Unfortunately, I would love to see a movie of the Hannah book that was true to the Hannah.
Yeah.
The movie was true to the book, but I don't know if it'd be a good movie. I'm just not sure. I think you have to separate the two and say, I'm going to read the book. That's a different animal than a movie is. You know, it's sort of like comparing a giraffe and a snake. And don't ask me which is which.
Just wondering.
Anyone else?
Yes.
I have a question. I'm interested in Hannah's cat, and I'm not sure the correct way to pronounce Moisey's name.
Okay, it's Moisha.
Moisha?
Yeah, Moisha is named after Moisha Dayan, who was an Israeli general and was in a bunch of wars. And Moisha in the book also is blind in one eye, and Moisha Dayan was. And he's been through the wars, you can tell. He's got a torn ear, and you know. And Hannah took him in on her doorstep, and I think that's going to be a Christmas book eventually, is her meeting Moisha for the first time. Because I like to go back in the past for the Christmas books because I don't want to go on with the story for somebody that might miss, I'd rather have the large books be the Hannah's life progresses rather than the Christmas ones. I think I want to cover some other characters too. I want to learn Norman's story. I want to learn Mike's story. We know a little bit of Mike's story and we know a little bit of Norman's, but there's more. And how about Andrea when she was in high school? What was she like? And I keep thinking these things. And I also want to, I have sort of plans to write, I have plans to write a Christmas book, as a matter of fact, in 2020. And it is going to be about Dolores when she first starts the romance with Doc. I think that would be interesting. And, the family's reaction when they find out, that would be kind of fun. That won't be all that's in the book, but I thought that would be a thread that would go through it.
That is fun because whenever you create a character, they're always in a particular time and place.
Yes.
And you don't get to know how they got there.
Exactly. I mean, you don't need to go back to birth, I don't think, but it is nice to know the background because it makes you understand some things that they do. It's just like people. When you meet somebody and you find out their background, you go, oh, that's why she reacted that way. Or that's why he said that, It's just back to life.
So Hannah really can't move out of Lake Eden without the series taking a dramatic turn. You don't have any real reason to do that, do you?
No. Lake Eden is a character, as far as I'm concerned. It is a character in the books. And I don't want to, she can leave it for a little while, but she's got to come back. No, I would never take her out of there for long. I mean, yeah, maybe a vacation. I mean, she left on her honeymoon.
Sure.
And in the next book, she's going to leave for a week. That's it. That's all. But I still want to put her in a blizzard with Mike and Norman. I swear. Yeah, I have a feeling that is going to be the last book in this series. I keep threatening that with my editor. And he says, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. So, it will be interesting.
You must already know where your next book's going.
Yes.
Do you know where your story's going after that? I mean, do you have an idea in your head where your character's going in the next book?
I do. Yeah. It's sort of, sometimes I'm not that far ahead. But I'm usually thinking 2-3 books ahead. And that's where I am now. And no, I'm not going to tell you.
I read a lot of your non-culinary books as well, and I was wondering which ones you enjoy writing better, more.
You mean the thrillers? Read the thrillers.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. There's a story about the thrillers. When I first started writing, I started writing thrillers, and they were pretty scary books, and sort of Stephen King-ish books. And so I wrote quite a few of those. And my husband, he did not appreciate the fact I wrote thrillers because I would wake up at night with nightmares. And I would be having a terrible nightmare and I'd wake up and I'd scream or something. He'd flick on the light, goes, "What's wrong?" I said, "Oh, honey, it's just the book I'm writing," And this would happen over and over and over. And he would get up. He was so sweet. He'd flick on the light. I'll leave the light on, and he'd say, "I'm going to go make you a cup of hot chocolate," which is very sweet. It was very nice. I really appreciate it. I wrote, I think it's 10 thrillers. On the last book, of course, I had another nightmare, and I screamed. And he flicked on the light, and he said, "Another nightmares?" I said, "Yeah, another nightmare." I said, "Honey, can't you write something else?" So Hannah was born.
But why did you start writing thrillers? It's an interesting question.
They sold.
Let me start over again. Why did you start writing? That might even be the more
Why did I
basic
start
question.
writing?
Yeah.
I started writing when I was second grade. I'm serious, really, Barbara. My mom used to read to me every single night before I went to sleep. And she was reading a children's book to me. And it was a rather long book. And we were really enjoying this. And it took her, weeks to read this book because it was long. And I was so happy with it until we got to the end. And she said, "How did you like the book?" And I said, "I loved it, but I didn't like the ending, Mom." And she said, "Oh, well, write your own." "You can do that?" And she said, "Sure. I mean, it's not going to be published, but you could do that. You could write your own. I'd be interested in reading what you think you could do." So, I was second or third grade. It takes a long time for a kid to write in second and third grade. But I probably took me at least a month. I wrote my own ending. And I was a little bit scared, but I gave it to her. And I said, "I wrote my own ending." And she said, "Okay." And she read it, and she said, "Oh, honey, I like your ending better." And I thought, oh, I'm so happy. Maybe I'll be a writer. I mean, that is how it all started. And, I wanted to ask her, Mom's gone now, I wanted to ask her, "Did you really like my ending better?" I never had the guts to do it. And I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I wouldn't have wanted to force her to lie, but if she didn't, I didn't want to know. So I'm really glad it's kind of one of those unanswered things.
So did you try various things and then the thriller was the one that sold?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the first thing I wanted to do was write a cookbook. I had all those family recipes, I really wanted to do that. And the darn thing would not sell. Nobody wanted it. I tried Workman, I tried, all sorts of different publishers. Nope. And so I kind of gave up on that. And actually, that is why I started, one of the reasons why I started the Hannah series is because I wanted to write that cookbook, and I decided my editor wanted me to write a cozy mystery series. So I thought, hey, I could maybe incorporate recipes. And I asked, and he said, sure. And so then, this has evolved. Writing evolves. I tried to write a lot of different things, but if they didn't sell, then I kind of gave up and I went on to something that I thought might sell. So.
Wow. Recipes, I love that.
I kept at it.
Yeah, you did.
I am a very stubborn person.
And you had a serious wealth of recipes too, right?
Oh yes, now I have even more wealth of recipes because people like you send me family recipes. They email them to me, and which is wonderful. So, and if I use them in the book, I always put the person's first name, if I know it. Sometimes they'll come in, they don't have a name on them, but most of the time they do, and I will always, do that. Gina's strawberry bread, But whoever Gina is, I'm not too sure, but she sent me that recipe. And that's the way I do it. And if you see that, or if you see Hannah talk about her friend, Gina, or Michelle's friend, Gina, and there's no character like that in the books, that's a person that sent me that recipe I'm talking about.
So if I send you the recipe for Italian meatloaf, do you promise you will keep mixed with clean hands in the instructions?
I certainly will.
Okay, I'm going to do it. I feel it should be memorialized, right? So really, it was terrific.
I'll do
Anyone
it.
else have a question? Or does everybody want to move on to the food? No, seriously, are there any more questions? Sorry, do you have one more?
No.
No, you want to eat? Okay.
Wait. We
Wait.
have a.
Oh, you have things to give away. We're going
Yes,
to move
I
to that.
do.
Okay. All right.
Okay, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna?
We
everybody's gonna
we
pick a
have
number?
numbers, so.
Oh, you have
We
numbers.
have already given out numbers. PK? How many? 42? Thank you. We have 42 numbers to play with.
Oh boy. Okay, and I have to pick two numbers out of there. Right. 1 to 42. Right. Yep. Okay. I'm gonna do something unusual. 1.
Oh, right here.
Very
Yay!
But first I have to get off the chair.
I know, these chairs are undignified. I always have to like do this in order to get up here.
And I have to explain the prize to you.
Okay?
Okay. This little guy's
Aw.
name is Sven.
Oh.
Sven Svensson. And he is the barefoot chef. Or he wants to be. I found these little Svens in the desert right around here. Well, I didn't find them, but it's a good story. Sitting in front of a great big barrel cactus. And he was so cold because it gets cold in the desert at night. I know that. And so I gave him this little shirt. Team Swenson. Isn't he cute?
Very cute.
Yay!
Thank you, Miss Joanne.
Oh, you are welcome. Now, I have one more spin to give away. So let us go with 28. Oh, that's us.
Oh,
Fan
yay!
over here. How exciting.
Yay!
There you are.
Now you guys have to bake for Span and you gotta teach him how to bake. He doesn't know how to bake, he'd like to.
Excellent. Well, we have a book to give away. We always try to give you a copy of a book that's not yet published so you can take it home with you. This is not a food book, but David Rosenfeld writes really hilarious books about dogs. Andy Carpenter being a New Jersey lawyer. But this one actually is about Doug Brock, a New Jersey state police officer. And interestingly, he works Andy Carpenter, the defense attorney whose client has never been guilty, into this book. So a possible tension in this book is whether Andy's client, for once, might actually be guilty. I won't spoil that for you. It's an extremely clever scam. David is a genius. He could have been a career criminal if he weren't a lawyer. So I'm going to pick the number. That's true. I'm going to pick, let me think, 37. Oh, everybody in this row got lucky. Right. There you are. So you can enjoy it. Right. So let's give Joanne a round of applause for coming. I'm going to wave goodbye to our Facebook audience before we're going to put the camera away before everybody tramples over there. Lois, do you have a plan for your